morning. So we're going to do this morning Psalms 23. Just something I just need to just really, sometimes you just need to come in with a refresher. And so I have sense enough to know when I need refreshing, and especially when I'm dealing with the things that I have going on now, because this left arm it don't feel so good. I'm not even gonna lie about it. It don't feel so good. So I want to do a refresher this morning. So I'm going to use a familiar passage this morning, which is Psalms 23 this morning. Psalms 23, and let's extract some things out of here that will be an encouragement for us, that will be an enlightenment for us, that will be a blessing for us. Let's pull some of this out of here this morning. Psalms 23, verse 1, and it says right here, hold on, wait 1 second. Let me make sure on something here. Hold on. Hold up. Hold your mule 1 second here. Hold your mule 1 second. Hold mule. Oh, no. Hold on. We're going to Psalms 24. We're going to Psalms 24. Hold up 1 second. I heard the Spirit of the Lord said they'll go over to Psalms 24. So let's go over to Psalms 24 this morning. Psalms 24. Wait 1 second here. Psalms 24 this morning. Y'all go ahead and get there and give me a second to get where I need to be this morning. Psalms 24. Let's go there this morning. Hold on a second. All right. Psalms 24. Give me a second, y'all. Let me do what I need to do this morning. Let's get this shared to the trail page. Okay. All right. Psalms 24. Psalms 24 and verse 1 says this right here. It says, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein." So let's talk this morning about, our prayer. We have a prayer focus, and let's have an encouraging time this morning doing prayer. And let's talk about the ownership of God. Let's talk about that. The ownership that God has with us, and the blessings that is in the ownership that God has with us. It says, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein." Thank you for ownership. Verse 2 says, "For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods." Ownership. Verse 3 says, "Who shall ascend unto the hill of the Lord? Or who shall stand in his holy place? He that has clean hands, a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully to God." That's a whole lot of stuff right there. That right there is a whole lot of stuff, but that's the kind of stuff right there that gets me into a bunch of trouble, because I start talking about how we got to do right, how we got to make sure we right, make sure our heart's right, make sure our minds is right, make sure our motives is right, all that type stuff. That gets me into some trouble. But you see right here what the scripture says. It says the earth is the Lord. It didn't say the earth belonged to humans. Now he has given us dominion in the earth, but it did not say that the earth belonged to humans, nor it is letting us know that he founded it, that he is the original establisher of everything. Then it goes to verse 3 and says, "Who shall ascend?" Who is going to go unto the hill of the Lord? Or who shall stand in his holy place? Who is it that has made themselves, or prepared themselves, or developed themselves, or brought themselves to a place as to where they can stand in the holy place, or in the hill of the Lord? Who is it that has done this? Who is it that has made adjustments? Who is it that has changed some things in life? Who is it that has humbled themselves to be able to do this? It said, but those, verse 4, are those with clean hands, a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul, his mind, emotions, and will to vanity, which means things that have no value, nothing that is able to be stable, nor sworn deceitfully, has not pretended to be a servant of the Lord, but not really a servant of the Lord. Verse 5 says, and he shall receive the blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. Lord, thank you. This morning, verse 6 says, this is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob, Selah. These are the people. This is the generation of people that are looking for the Lord. I don't know about y'all, but I want to be one of those in that generation of the folk that are looking for the Lord. I want to be the one of those people that walk with the clean hands and a pure heart. Now, what that means is that doesn't mean that you don't do anything wrong. What that means is when you do something wrong, you fix it quick. When you do realize you've said something wrong, when you do realize that you have thought something wrong, when there has been something that has taken place, that you fix it real quick. It says this is the generation of them that seek him, that seek his face, O Jacob. Verse 7, we're in Psalms 24. Verse 7 says, lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lifted up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. So I love what verse 7 says here. It says, listen, lift up your heads and ye gates. Now the gates is the place, the walls of protection. He says, look, lift up your heads. You've got to, let's just take it into a mental standpoint for a second here. Lift up your heads. You don't have to be down. Life has a way of putting us in situations as to where we feel down. Life has a way of bringing about so many challenges as to where we can literally feel down. 2020 has done a lot of that this year. There's been so many things that have come that have been overwhelming. We were hit with what's known as a pandemic that has caused us to have to alter certain things about our lives. It says, lift up your heads, lift up your heads, and O ye gates, you protectors, you walls, you are the ones that are fortified. You are the ones that the Lord has strengthened in this time. You are the ones that the Lord has built up. I need to tell you this morning that you are really stronger than what you think. You're stronger than what you give yourself credit for. You are stronger. Lift up your head. There is no reason and why, because of all of the scriptures prior to that gives indication of the ownership. It talks about who we belong to. It starts out in verse 1 letting us know that the earth is the Lord. So I don't have to worry because I know who it belongs to. I know who's in control of everything. The problem is when we forget, or when we literally allow things to bring us to a point of not knowing that God is in control. When we start relying on ourselves, or we start relying on things that we have, we start looking and depending on the job, we start looking and depending on someone else's hand to do things. But it says the earth is the Lord's and the fullness, which means everything that is housed in there, everything that is contained inside of that is the Lord's. And then it says, and they that dwells therein. The ownership of God, the ownership of God. It doesn't matter what is going about. It doesn't matter. Yeah, God knows about COVID-19. He does. God knows about everything that is coming about now. He is fully aware. None of it caught him by surprise. He knew in 2019 that we would deal with a pandemic in 2020. He knew in 2017, 2016. He knew because he has this thing already worked out. He knows the ending from the beginning. So God already knew what was going to happen. So none of it has caught God by surprise. And to be honest with you, when we flow with God as we ought to, when we walk in the Spirit, then a lot of things should not catch us by surprise. So if they may do, a lot of it is because we are not walking in the Spirit. We're walking according to our own our own signs. We're walking according to our own volition. We're walking according to things that we think ourselves or things that we believe ourselves. We're walking according to that. But it says the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. So it's saying, okay, look, I need you to know that God has ownership. He has ownership. I know it may look like God is not moving. It may look like God is not winning. It may look like the situation and the circumstance has literally bringing about a defeat. It may look like that. It may look like you got more bills than you can handle. It may look like your body is dealing with more than what you can stand. It may look like there's frustration and aggravation on every side. It looks like that. But listen, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. So this is the thing about it here. The Spirit of God has not diminished in power at all. It all belongs to Him. A lot of times it is what happens in verse 4 that's the reason why we feel as though we are defeated in things. Verse 4 gives the responsibility of what we're supposed to do. Psalms, where am I at? Psalms 24 and verse 4. Verse 4 gives indication of what we are to do and what our responsibility is, and we lack in our responsibility, which throws us into a place of chaos. God help me. It throws us into a place of chaos. Check this out. Verse 4 says this here. Verse 1, let me reiterate it again so that you get it. It comes through. You understand. Verse 1 is given ownership. It says the earth is the Lord's. It's not Delphine's. It's not yours. It's not mama's. It's not daddy's. The earth is the Lord. It's not the bills. It's not the job. The earth is the Lord. It says, and the fullness, everything contained in it, and the fullness thereof. The world, it says, and they that dwell therein. So there's nothing that escapes God. There is nothing that is outside of God. Okay, then it goes down to verse 4. Now let's go to verse 4 and let's see what we are supposed to do, what our responsibility is, and why we're falling short in walking in dominion as we ought to. It says, he that has clean hands, clean hands, clean hands. He that has clean hands, if y'all notice, what is this pandemic saying that we ought to do? What is this pandemic encouraging us to do? A lot of is to do a lot of sanitation. It is sanitize. It means washing hands. God is allowing this thing to represent something. It has a specific meaning in what it is saying. If you look at all of the things that they are saying as to how this thing can be moved, how someone can get it, if you'll pay attention to all of that, and you'll see, he says, wash your hands, okay? Make sure that you're not breathing out all of the things, certain things off into other people. Okay, let me tell you what that represents. That represents, make sure that you are not projecting you off onto other people, that you don't give what is you off to other people. You know, making sure all of it is about the cleanliness. All of it is about staying sanitized and all. And so the scripture says here in verse 4, clean hands. There it is, clean hands. It says that we are to have clean hands. He that has clean hands and a pure heart. A pure heart, a pure heart. What is representing of a pure heart? A pure heart is not a heart that works deceit on the back end. That's not a pure heart. A pure heart is not a heart that desires to see someone actually struggle. That's not a pure heart. A pure heart is not a heart that it'll pretend like it wants to see some acceleration or to see blessings or favor be upon a particular person or something, but they're not really, don't really want it. A pure heart. A pure heart also, on another scope that I want to talk to y'all to help you with this morning, is this. A pure heart is having a heart that sits and it always dwells on what has gone wrong with you. That will tear up your heart. If you're constantly always thinking about the problems that you have, the issues that are going going on with you. Nothing ever works right for me. Well, you may not be doing anything to someone else, but what you are literally doing is contaminating the heart. And so when it's time to deal with someone else, you're not going to be able